Welcome to the Animal Free Labcast, everybody. I'm back again with Dr. Gemma Davis. Hey, Gemma, how are you?
Hi, Carla. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What have we got coming up today, Gemma?
Well, today we're going to be joined by our Director of Public Affairs, Isobel Martin, and we're going to talk about two very important debates that have taken place in Parliament over the past couple of weeks, and also some new Home Office reports that have come out. So we're going to be discussing all the details about those.
Sounds good. So before we chat to Isobel, though, tell us about the latest podcast results, Gemma.
Oh, we've had a little slight issue with the poll from last time. We realised that we actually forgot to include the details of the poll question on our regular Friday email. So unfortunately, only one person has voted in the poll, and that person is me. Because I was checking why nobody had voted to see if it was actually working. Well, I said yes, I'd like to see lots more animal replacement centres around the UK. But apparently, not sure about everyone else. So apologies for that. But we will try again this week. And we have also added a new button to the podcast page, which does take you to the poll. So fingers crossed. We'll get some results in future.
So, Gemma, it's been a busy couple of weeks, hasn't it? Tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, well, we've all been kind of out and about and all over the place, haven't we? So me and you, and a couple of other people from Animal Free Research UK, we attended a event in London last week, which was called A Human Focus for 21st Century Life Sciences. So that was an event that was hosted by the Alliance for Human Relevant Science, but also the Royal Society. So it was a really fantastic event. The Royal Society is the oldest continuously existing scientific academy in the world, which dates back to the 1600s. So it's a really, prestigious organisation. And some of the fellows, it's a real who's of science, really. It's, Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, all the big science names. They're all fellows of the Royal Society. So we're really excited to go to an event organised by them. And the event was actually organised by our chair of our Board of Trustees, Professor Jeff Pilkington, who is also a fellow of the Royal Society, alongside the team from the Alliance. And there were some really fantastic talks across the 2 days. Jeff gave a really inspiring keynote speech to open the event. And there was loads of brilliant talks across the couple of days. There was a fantastic talk from Professor Lorna Harries from our Animal Replacement Centre 2.0 in Exeter. She was talking about her diabetes research, some of which we funded a few years ago. And it was just really interesting because that work just wouldn't have been possible if she'd been using animals. That's how important it is to use human cells and tissues. So that was really interesting. But there was also a really interesting talk from Dr. Dharminder Singh, who was on our scientific advisory panel. He gave a great talk on the role of human relevant methods in policy and regulation. Also, another one of our trustees, Professor Malcolm Wilkinson, chaired a session and took part in a panel discussion with Steve Race, the MP, who introduced the bill, which is based on Herbie's law in Parliament. So it was really interesting to hear them both talking about that. So yeah, lots of different people from within the organisation were involved in this event, and it was really interesting, wasn't it?
It was really interesting, really inspiring, and good to reconnect with lots of people from the community and hear about the kind of progress that we're making together as a collective.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really inspiring to hear from people working on different disease areas, but all using animal-free methods. It just shows how far this technology is coming along and all the different ways that people can work together to really replace animals in all different areas of medical research. So it was a great couple of days, wasn't it? But what have you been up to, Carla? Because there are lots of other things going on as well.
Well, as you said, I was with you at that conference. We're going to talk in a minute with Isobel about activity happening in the House of Parliament at the same time. It was all happening. At the same time, some of our other team members were in Cambridge at another conference. This was a conference on organoids and organoid-chip research. So people who listen to the podcast regularly will be familiar with organoid-chips and organoids, the cutting-edge kind of technologies that we use in animal-free research. And that was a great conference bringing together all the researchers who've got a real focus on this area of work. It was an inspiring couple of days as well. And a researcher all the way from Toronto personally thanked the team for our work, which was lovely to hear. And particularly, we're talking about our antibodies database, and that they're actively promoting it with colleagues in Canada, which is incredible that it's getting international reach. We're really delighted to hear that. And then on the Herbie's law side of things, and we're going to be talking with Isobel shortly, our lovely celebrity friend Deborah Meaden has shared the campaign, Herbie's Law campaign, on her website, which is fantastic, especially as she is currently on the BBC in Dragon's Den at the moment. So we're hoping that that will help us to kind of spread the message even further and reach new people. So huge thank you, Deborah, if you're listening.
Yeah, that's brilliant to use her platform. She's such an advocate for animals, isn't she? So that's really brilliant of her to include it on her website as well.
Absolutely. So much going on, but not least in Parliament. So let's bring in Isobel, our Director of Public Affairs, who is becoming very fast the leading voice for animals in laboratories across Westminster. So much been going on, Isobel. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. So over the last couple of weeks, we've actually managed to have 2 debates in the Houses of Commons, which is incredible. That has been on the subject of the shocking animal welfare failings that have taken place in British laboratories. And it's been so important to actually have those really awful failings exposed in Parliament, and so that they actually go onto the Hansard, the parliamentary record as well. And what's been particularly important during those debates is they've shown really strong, vigorous cross-party support for Herbie's law, which of course listeners to the podcast would be really familiar with, our campaign for a law that would enable animal experiments to be phased out completely over the next decade and replaced with all the brilliant human-specific technologies. So the debates have showcased really clearly just how much cross-party support there is for Herbie's law and have conveyed that message really clearly to the government.
Fantastic. And is it usually quite difficult to get one of these debates to happen in Parliament?
It actually is quite challenging, yeah, because the first thing is that you'll need parliamentarians who are actually happy to apply. And obviously, there are just so many issues that demand MPs' attention because, of course, they're representing their constituents and there are so many important issues. So to have MPs who are willing to apply for a debate on this issue is absolutely fantastic. And the other thing is that it's not just a case of them applying and being given a slot, there's actually a ballot. So effectively a draw for them to be given a slot for the debate. So it relies on having brilliant support and also some luck in being chosen in the ballot.
Yeah, so that's absolutely amazing that we've had 2 debates then on the same topic within as many weeks.
We were delighted, very surprised and delighted to be able to get 2 debates on this topic over those last couple of weeks. It's been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, for many years we have been exposing the issues that have been highlighted in these Home Office reports and bringing them to the attention of parliamentarians. And interest and momentum has gradually been building, but to get to a point where we could have 1 debate in Parliament on this, let alone 2, is absolutely fantastic.
So, Isobel, tell our supporters what does it mean to have a debate? What happens next as a result of the debate?
So the main purpose of the debate is to raise the profile of the issue and to get it in front of ministers. So obviously listeners to the podcast who have watched the debate back, as you may have done, you'll have seen that the MPs who put forward the debate had a chance to make a really powerful speech. There were then interventions from some other MPs. In the longer of the 2 debates, there were then also representations from the opposition spokespeople as well. And then the minister had to answer those speeches and pick up some of the points that had been made and give the government position. So that meant that the minister was held accountable to those cross-party parliamentarians during the debate, which is really powerful. And those commitments go on to the Hansard, the parliamentary record, and there's a transcript of them. So in terms of what happens next, it doesn't automatically, unfortunately, lead to a new law or anything like that, but it's part of a really important momentum building campaign that we have been running on Herbie's Law and continue to run. There were also some concrete positive outcomes from the debate, small but nonetheless important. So, for example, MPs being given a chance to meet with the regulator of animal experiments and hold them to account. Obviously, that's not the kind of bold action that we want to see. That's nowhere near enough. But these sorts of opportunities for MPs to directly hold the regulator to account are nonetheless really important.
I guess it shows as well, it shows government how important this is to people, and it keeps it on the top of their to-do list, doesn't it?
It really does. And to repeatedly hear those calls for Herbie's Law does make it more and more difficult for the government to ignore, and particularly as it was summed up so powerfully by MPs that actually if the government wants to keep its manifesto commitment on phasing out animal experiments, then introducing Herbie's Law is the way to do that. So it's a really concise and powerful way to make that case directly to government.
I was saying to the team the other day, it feels like the work that we're doing is bringing a tear to my eyes every couple of days, because our lovely Herbie is getting yet another mention in Parliament every few days. I mean, it's incredible that what we're achieving, what you're achieving, Isobel.
Oh, thank you. It's so powerful to hear Herbie mentioned in Parliament. And I think it's so important that his story is actually put in front of policymakers and the minister. And it's really great with the debates for it to be brought back to the level of individual animals. I know that one of the MPs who led the debate mentioned his dog as well. And I think it's really powerful for the government just to be reminded that these are, of course, all individual animals. Although we hear so many overwhelming statistics about animal use, these are individual animals. So I think highlighting stories like Herbie's is just so important.
So we've got some clips from the debates. So let's hear a little clip from Seamus Logan at the second debate, talking about Herbie's Law and support for scientists and the expert advisory committee that we need to shape this change to animal-free methods.
As a member of the EPPG on phasing out these experiments, we have discussed implementing Herbie's Law as a practical pathway to phase out animal testing in collaboration with the scientific community. Legal experts have prepared a draft of Herbie's Law titled the Human-Specific Technologies Bill, describing how government could ensure progress, how scientists could be supported, and with detail on setting up an expert advisory committee to give specialist advice on animal replacement. I think I speak for many attending this debate today when I see that we are keen to see an end to animal suffering in medical research.
There we are, powerful words from Seamus. And then here's a clip of Brian Leishman, MP, who is very strongly calling for Herbie's Law.
In a debate last week, I made an intervention regarding passing Herbie's Law. And I say to the Minister that if we're going to meet our manifesto commitment, then passing Herbie's Law, it really is a must. We should move towards more modern, relevant and human-specific technologies for both the animal's sake and for people that are needing or will need treatments in the future. So, John, as I said earlier, it is a question of what kind of society do we want to live in, and the moral case is surely reason enough. It is basic human decency to know that there should be an end to animal experimentation. But as with everything, for things to change for the better, then there really must be the political will to make it so. So I implore the Minister and our government to get behind Herbie's Law. It's the right thing for the animals, it's popular, and by adopting it, we'd be making a genuine difference in changing the country for the better.
Yeah, so it's so powerful to hear those clips and such a strong case put to the government that if they want to meet their manifesto commitment, then what they need to do is to introduce Herbie's Law without delay. It's such a clear message, and I think is becoming increasingly difficult for the government to ignore now.
Absolutely. It's just so encouraging to hear those MPs speaking so powerfully and so strongly for Herbie's Law. The government has put together this strategy but we are really getting the message out there that it has to go farther and faster. So it's really powerful to hear those voices. And thank you so much to all the MPs for your support. But it's not just MPs, is it, Belle?
No, so after all this incredible momentum in the House of Commons, 2 debates in 2 weeks, we then saw just yesterday really brilliant support building in House of Lords too. So just yesterday, Lord Steve McCabe asked an oral question about the number of beagles used for testing, and he also called for Herbie's law to be implemented.
A human-specific technologies bill, sometimes dubbed Herbie's Law after a rescued beagle, would go a long way to advancing the government's manifesto commitments on animal testing. Are there any plans for such legislation?
So fantastic to hear that raised in the House of Lords as well. So powerful, as I was saying, this message is just being repeated over and over again to government. That's so important. And some of you might recognise the name of Steve McCabe as well, because when he was an MP, he was a strong supporter of our work. And he actually visited the work that we were funding via the Lifetime CDT project at the University of Birmingham back in 2023. And was so inspired by that he hosted a debate for us in Parliament then in the House of Commons. And it really just underlines again the power of giving policymakers the opportunity to actually see this incredible science that we fund directly and to interact with those expert scientists.
Well, and just thank you to you, because, you know, none of this would be possible without the support and the generosity of our supporters and our donors who fund all of this research. So thank you, because it really is gaining incredible traction across Westminster.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to contact your MP, because it really does make a difference, as you can see. So that's fantastic. So let's move on to now talking about the latest Home Office report of the non-technical summaries. So if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, you'll have heard me talk about these throughout the year, because this is a kind of quarterly report that comes out. And we've just had the last report from 2025. So that is a report that gives the details of the animal use licenses that have been approved between October and December of last year. Off the back of this last report, we've now added up all the numbers of the licenses that have been approved through 2025. We've worked out the number of animals that have been involved in these licenses, and it now comes to over 6.5 million animals have been approved for use in British labs. Over 453 licenses. So these animals will be used in the next few years in labs. And these numbers include over 3.6 million mice, almost 2 million fish, over 400,000 rats, and over 200,000 frogs, and lots of other types of animals. But there's also a lot of specially protected animals. So these are ones that have extra protection under the law of ASPA. These licenses cover over 6,000 beagles, over 4,000 monkeys, and 30 horses. So obviously these numbers are really shocking. These reports do give a lot of detailed information about what will happen to these animals, you know, what kind of things will be done, what will happen to them at the end of the experiments. This is all publicly available information that you could have a look at if you wanted to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, because there are some really upsetting details in there. But, you know, it really is important to know that this is the reality of what is happening to these animals. And that's why it's so important that we carry on pushing for Herbie's law. And we do pass this information on to MPs, and a lot of them are really shocked, just like we are. And this is what drives them to do things like have these debates, because they really do understand how important it is that we stand up for animals and stop this taking place in future.
I was just going to add, so we really do have this contradiction in government, don't we? Because on the one hand, you've got the government saying that it wants to phase out the use of animals in experiments. And then at the other hand, you've got them designating animal laboratories as national infrastructure that people are no longer allowed to protest outside of. And you've got them approving 6.5 million experiments over the next few years. It's really staggering, the kind of cognitive dissonance, I guess, that's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like there's different parts of the government kind of arguing with itself, and that's just not going to lead to any progress, is it? So this is really important, and it's something that we are going to be really working with MPs on going forward. And we will also be keeping everybody updated if you follow us on social media or through our emails or through the podcast in future. We'll carry on going through this detail, and we will keep updating you.
So I'm so glad that we're able to do this work going through the summaries, particularly thanks to your expertise, Gemma, because I think it would be so easy for these documents to be sort of published by the Home Office, published in theory, but in such a way that members of the public and parliamentarians are very unlikely to actually read them and come across the detail of what they contain. So to be able to actually get these out into the public domain and in front of parliamentarians so that they can see the reality of what has been licensed to go on in British laboratories is absolutely vital. It's so shocking. And as you and Carla have said, it just underlines the vital importance of Herbie's law. If the government is serious about phasing out the use of animals and about meeting its manifesto commitment, then clearly Herbie's law has got to be introduced as a priority.
So just as a final thought before we wrap up, what can people do listening at home? Because it can be quite overwhelming, can't it, thinking about these animals who have, been condemned to be used in laboratories. So for people who want to make a difference and do something, what can they do?
So it's really vital, and we're so grateful to you all for contacting your MPs about this issue. It really is just so powerful. I know it's something that we ask you to do repeatedly, but the importance of it just really can't be overstated. We hear all the time from MPs how important it is, how much correspondence they receive from their constituents about this, and how it motivates them and drives them to take action on this issue. And I do appreciate it can be frustrating sometimes if you're not getting a positive response, but I would recommend keeping going. There are things that you can do as well, like offering to meet with your MP via one of their surgeries, and also sharing things like our online actions with your friends and family who may also have different MPs, helping to just spread this even wider. So we're so grateful to you for doing that, and please keep doing it.
I agree with everything Isobel said there. It's so important to keep contacting your MP, even though you might have, emailed them quite recently. Do it again, because the more that we can get this to appear in their inboxes, the more they're going to take notice of it and do something with it. So please do carry on. We really appreciate it.
Well, that's all we've got time for in this episode. We'll be back in a fortnight with all the latest from the heart of animal-free research. Thank you so much, Isobel, for being with us today. Before we go, though, Gemma, let's have a second go at this poll.
Yeah, so second attempt at this question. So if you listen to the last episode where we had Josh Abram from our Animal Replacement Centre of Excellence in London, the question was, would you like to see more animal replacement centres, or ARCs as we call them, around the UK? Yes or no? So you can vote on our website. You can find the link in our podcast email, and we will put it in this week, I promise. And also there's links on our social media and now on the podcast page. And we will discuss the results in the next episode. But if you'd like to get in touch about anything else or tell us your thoughts about the episode, then please do drop us an email at hello@animalfreeresearchuk.org.
So we already know what Gemma thinks, but what do you think? Please let us know on the poll. Phil, thank you so much, Isobel, as I said. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for all the brilliant work that you're doing. Thank you, Gemma, for being here as well. And thank you for listening. And we will see you in a fortnight.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.